Hey, folks, this is Pastor Rick. Glad you're with us today here on what we call Prosperity Team Meeting. I hope you are having a great day. I've had a very challenging, stretching week, but I say that in a good way because that's what makes you strong. I'm really kind of hanging out with the crew here, and a lot of exciting things are happening. We got a lot of things coming down the pike, and I want to say we had a guest plan for you today, but the guest just couldn't. Something came up at the last minute; they couldn't make it. So that's life, and so we're going to go on today. But we're going to review our book, God and Money, and we're going to bring our trusty friend, Miss Bishop. She'll be our guest today. Sheila Bishop, you get to be the guest. How about that?
That's my honor. Happy New Year to everyone. I'm glad to be here.
We're glad to have you. It's great. Hey, listen, of course, we got our trusty friends. We got Brandon in the background today. He's a new team member. He's doing a great job back there. And he'll be doing the questions that people have around this book. We're going to talk about God and money. I'll talk about that in a minute. And then we've got the famous, most incredible Brian Walker, who's our main director dude. He's back there doing what he does. So we are thankful to have him. He's incredible. He is absolutely phenomenal. And we're just great. And we got so many things going, man. There's so many, the publishing thing is really going well. We're not talking about it much, but I'm telling you, got some really good books coming down the pike, and I'm really excited about them because they're going to be really great books. They're going to give us a lot of opportunity to engage people. And our first book is coming out. It's called Relationship Gumbo, coming out on Easter. That's the launch date, Easter Sunday. That's going to be great. And it's called The Guilt-Free Recipe for Managing Love and Relationship. It's not your fault. It's not my fault. It's the recipe. Change the recipe and you change everything. That's right. It's going to be a really good read. And then we're going to have workshops and all that down the road. We're going to have, Sheila Bishop, a relationship conference. And it's going to be married people and single people all together, mushed together. It's going to be great.
I think that'd be great.
Yeah, I think it's great. And the goal is to talk about relationships, and then we'll have a business session as well. So I'm working on another book. It's wonderful. It's called Business Gumbo, not just relationship. It's how to do business and all that good stuff. So a lot of things are going to be coming up, and I'm not going to give it all away, but there's a whole lot. But right now, Relationship Gumbo is our first book coming up, and it's going to be Easter. So, having said that, let's talk about the book. God and Money, How We Discover True Riches at Harvard Business School. These guys, and this is the book, guys, if you haven't bought it. I thought it was fabulous. I thought it was amazing in some ways. I've got some, I got some thoughts, about this book. If you missed it, then you go buy it. And it's one of those books that just kind of sets the tone. I'm going to read for you sort of a summary of some of the things the book kind of says. And because I like to hold on for a minute and make sure my devices are not talking to me. It's, you have these technologies, you cut them off and they keep going. What does that mean, Sheila? Okay, everybody's still talking to me. I just don't get it. I think airplane mode. Maybe I put it there. There you go. Maybe they'll go away. Here we go.
And we actually have one of the participants said, "Is it just me or is the volume low?"
Is it just me, Brian? Is the volume low?
Or looks like Jocelyn's saying the volume is low.
So can't she just hear me, or is it Brian? Can we make it louder? What's the deal? What is the deal today? Wow. Can we just? All right. How's it look, Brian? Can you hear me now? What do you think? I want to do like on T. Can you hear me now? Can you? Joycelyn, let us know whether you can hear us or not. Or is it just that it needs to be louder?
Talk to me. Brian said we can't, just talk louder.
So talk loud. Get loud.
No, really? Not yell, but talk louder. Yeah.
Talk louder? Okay, yeah. Let's see if this works. How about this?
Jocelyn, maybe she'll just let us know if she's
She'll let us know? Okay. All right, good. I got these dudes. I don't know if they're going to work or not. Let me see if they connect or not. They may not. Let's talk louder. All right. So anyway, part of what we'll do here is we'll talk louder and we'll make sure you can hear us. And if Jocelyn can dial back in and let us know, is it better? Yes.
we also have one of our guests, Miss Diane says that you can hear on YouTube. So I'm not sure if Jocelyn's on YouTube or not.
Okay. So YouTube. Okay. Well, listen. Let me do this too, because all my devices are talking to me. I mean, everything is beeping and talking. And
Other people are chiming in and saying that it sounds okay. So
okay.
Jocelyn, you might
Good.
have to reboot.
Oh man. Okay. Well, I think that's great. Let me do this. I'm trying to get everybody to do not disturb me, because I'm having a whole bunch of people diving in and saying something. So say something fantastic, Sheila, while I fix this computer for a minute. Just
Okay. We're just going to try to work through all the technical problems. And I think for any of you that haven't read this book, God and Money, is quite challenging, and looking forward to Pastor Rick giving us a good review of that.
really, is that it? You gonna say more?
No, I'm going to.
I love it. I think it's great. Um, yeah, when technology does what it wants to do, you just kind of work with it, right? And you kind of say, okay, we're gonna get there. Especially when you have on do not disturb and everything still disturbs you. That's always amazing to me. It's like, do they have like superpowers? They just burst through my devices and do what they want. But let's go for it, shall we? The book is interesting. Here's what it says. Balmer and Curtins argue that money is not morally neutral. It is a spiritual force that shapes trust, identity, power, and obedience. The Christian problem is not possession, but attachment. When money becomes a rival source of security, it quietly displaces God, even in generous people. True stewardship, therefore, is not about the budgeting alone, but about reordering love and trust so that God, not wealth, defines value, purpose, and direction. I like the book. I like the guys' testimonies. You can go see them online. I thought they were really nice guys. I really did. I thought they were, they come off as these guys who had this great revelation at Harvard and college about money and God, and they really want you to be a giver and a saver and an investor in charities. And it's just a really great concept. And it shows you the linkage between God and your money in a way that's very, very real. So it's not just money, but it's God's commitment to you and God's desire to use you and impacting the world. So for me, that is a great purpose, and that's kind of what you hear in church. You hear a lot of that. You're supposed to be committed to God, committed to giving, committed to money. The issue that I have with the book, the thing that I'll just say up front is, it's almost, if you read the book, you come away with this impression all your money belongs to God. And let me give you a verse. It's interesting. It's in Psalms 24, verse 1. The earth is the Lord's and everything in it, the world and all who live in it, for he founded it upon the seas and established it on the waters. Now I want to stop there for a minute. She'll join me for a second, because I think this is the part where I get to be interesting. Okay, this is the part where I'm gonna get in trouble, maybe a little bit. I understand that God made everything, and I understand that God calls us to see things through the lens of His gift to us. But I don't know that God wants us to feel that we own nothing. I don't know that that's the intent. And in the book, there's a whole lot of that. It focus on everything you have belongs to God. Let's see, the biblical vision of money. We'll come back and talk about these. A heart level struggle, with money, our heart struggles. Practices that reform the heart, how you can reform your heart so it's not just focused on money. And then it gives key biblical themes that are about money, like ownership. Who owns it? Or are you a steward? We'll come back to that. Treasure over trust. That's this great comparison. You treasure, you'll give it up. You trust yourself, your money, or you trust God. And then the deception of safety. Savings are wise. Ultimate security is not found in savings, though, he said. Ultimate security is not found in savings. But it is nice to have some money. I'm going to tell you right now, to have some savings. But it is true, because it can be gone. and things happen, and you lose a lot of your wealth. You have to rebuild and all that good stuff. They call it the emergency fund. What if the emergency comes and takes away the fund? Right?
Mhm.
It's the
Mhm.
emergency fund, FUND. But if the emergency comes and you use up all the funds, now you are back like a lot of people needing funds again. So, important conversation. And so, let me stop there and let me just say, um, I like the book, and I'll let you chime in on this, Sheila. I like the book. I think it's really great and helpful. But I don't know that I think God wants you to feel that you have no right to money. My kids, for example, uh, I want them to have, and this is really an important part of, I think, raising children. I never told my kids this is my house.
Hmm.
So when it was in their room, that was Ricky's room, in my opinion, Christina's room. I felt very strongly that they needed to have a sense of ownership. I never took their keys to their cars. I never even threatened to do that. It's their car. I
Mhm.
think that a parent who does that, and I understand why you do it because you need to have some leverage, but you only have leverage for a few months. So to me, the bigger place to get them is up here and in here than taking stuff. I think I understand when that can be necessary. I'm not saying in some extreme cases that's not necessary. And for some of you, that's your out to use it whenever you want to. But I really mean I just never really did that because I really feel that if you feel that you never own anything, you're not going to invest in it.
Mhm.
And so I felt that their room was their room, even though I often say, please clean it. And they would to the best of their ability. so, so I had little techniques to help them along. But I think for us to say that God's attitude is you own nothing and everything you have, you must give to me. And it's not 10% that you owe me, it's 100%. I just don't think he wants to give us the crumbs. I never wanted my kids to feel as if the crumbs are theirs. I think the Bible is right. Earth is the Lord's. I agree, and it's true in my life that all the house is mine, all the money was mine. All of it, I had all power. Where we go on vacation, not go on vacation. But to use that power in that way is not fair. Because if you also see, the Bible teaches stewardship. The fact that I give you something to be in control of. If you look at Adam and Eve, he gave them the garden. Profound decision. So these guys are in charge of something. He gave them jobs in the garden. You till this, or it's not going to be tilled. You name the animals, they're not going to be named. That's your job, your responsibility. You own it. And I think to take that from people is not healthy. And I think
So
that's
what?
what this
Oh,
book kind of does in some ways. In some ways, it makes it all of it belongs to God, and then it's kind of this tone of, well, if you get something really nice and you can get something like, okay, if you can get a Mercedes or a Ford, to get a Mercedes is like really not the best decision. A Ford is the better, more holy decision. Jesus would drive a Ford, never a Mercedes. But yet when you see heaven, it's not portrayed that way. It's pretty fancy, golden streets and all. And so I don't think God is against nice, but in some ways in the book, I feel that it kind of leads you that way a little bit.
so what do you think is the major difference with between ownership and stewardship? If God does own everything, what is the distinction there? And I think one of the I think the book was great. It was very challenging in a lot of ways with me. There were some things that it made me, just take personal inventory and look at, but I found it difficult to find a balance with what the ultimate message that they were trying to convey, which is to be generous. But I don't know that I was able to draw a distinction between ownership and stewardship if God really does own everything. We just get to manage it.
Well, I think the problem with it, that's the problem in the presentation in some ways, because what it does is it makes you feel like you own nothing. I remember a wife told me, she said, I own nothing here. I own nothing. Um, I believe that the mindset of God is to say, I'm giving you something to steward. And that's
Mhm.
you hear how I said that. I'm giving you something to steward. By the fact that you're not going to be eternal, it's all going to be stewardship.
Okay.
Everything. He can't give you anything you'll have forever because you're only going to live so many years. So that's what makes us stewards more than
Mhm.
anything else. We get to own it for the time we have it. But
Mhm.
then it all goes back to God or to the dust or wherever.
Well, one of the other areas that I thought was interested in this approach that they take with generosity, I certainly believe that. And, you know, just to be transparent, I feel like, well, I really could do better. And so that was a real challenge for me with that. But they really promoted generosity. It was like generosity on steroids. And but again, I had to, I just took a look at the authors and the way they were presenting it. And basically, it was after your basic needs are met, you know, whether that's, you know, food, clothing, and shelter, which we've been promised from scripture. And then, you know, some of the other things you gave the example of the distinction with the car, but they also went as far as, you know, your income, you may be able to afford a $500,000 house, but in order for you to be able to give more to help people and to basically extend the level of generosity that maybe we are called to do, maybe you should settle for a $250,000 house. So it
Yeah.
was,
Tony Campolo, who was one of my favorite guys I've heard. He's kind of distant, and we've differed in some ways more recently in some of his more recent approaches, but he has always been fascinating to me. And he was one of the first guys I heard say it's a sin to buy a BMW. Basically, he did. You know, that he felt that it's a waste of money, that God could use that money in some part of the world. And God don't have to have golden streets either. And Jesus didn't have to have such a nice thing he was buried in. And I think you can always argue that people can have less, but I don't know that that's your argument to make for everybody. I think you can make it for yourself. I think it's a personal stewardship decision. But to say that anybody with a bigger house than yours is sinning and wasting money makes you some kind of standard that people need to abide by. And a lot of that's pride, in my opinion. I think it can be, you got to be careful that pride can go either way, in abundance or in lack. I'm proud that I'm poor, the vow of poverty, they used to call it. And the Pharisees were very big on, what they gave. And you see how that went with Jesus in Matthew 23, where he blasted them for their lack of faithfulness to God. So I don't think that there's anything of value in promoting poverty, because in reality, the more you have, the more you can give. But I don't think you have to always give it all away. I don't think you get to say there's a magic number. You can't be a billionaire, because if you're a billionaire, somehow look how many people you can help with that money. Poverty, Jesus said, no matter how much money I have or anybody else has in the world, or Bill Gates has, or anybody has, the Bible says the poor you'll always have with you. The poor are here not just because the society is unjust. The poor is here because of bad stewardship in some cases. Some families have been bad stewards. I am always checking myself to make sure I'm a good steward, and I'm not perfect. But I realize the danger of making the assumption that somehow my situation or somebody's situation is because society is unfair to them. People are going to make bad decisions forever. People are going to not eat right forever. Hospitals will always have people that come to them for reasons that they didn't have to come there.
you froze there. That's the read.
So I froze? Am I there?
I'm not real sure.
Mr. Brian, let's see. Brian, am I still alive and in color and moving forward? I hope so. I hope I am. Let's see. Welcome to the Wild Wild West of the internet. All right. There we go. Let's see. I think we're still here. So anyway, stewardship. Oh, that was you, Sheila, that went out. It wasn't me.
Okay, great.
That was you. You left us.
Okay. We're just
Yeah.
working our way through this.
Work your way through it. Work your way through it. I can't see
Well,
you. I
uh,
can't see you right now, but
you can't
I
see me.
no, I can only hear you. You sound wonderful, but I
I
can't see
see you, and I
you.
see
But I don't
me.
see you. Um, but as Brian works through that in the background, let me just say, part of the issue and is learning how not to have some extreme um, controlling philosophy. And religious people in particular are very, very big on establishing what they believe is God's standard for everybody. And that somehow, if you're going to be godly, you're going to have this conviction. Surely Jesus wouldn't want you to disagree with me, because how I see the world is how I see the world. So if I don't want to drive a BMW, then you can't drive a BMW, because I said God told me that you can't drive one. So everything becomes about how you see the world, and that can be a very, very dangerous perception. Everything is um, not about um, how I see it. And I think it's really hard for religious people. It's really hard for them. And I think that's why communicating and sharing and leading people into prosperity is hard for church people, because their vision of the world is very different. Some of what the book says, if I can kind of take you through some of it a little more detailed here, the biblical vision of money. Scripture consistently frames money as a competitor for the heart. Matthew 6:24. There's this constant pull of your heart, and pulling you and yanking you into this issue of making it the God of your life. And so Matthew 6:24 talks about that. The whole idea of lusting after money. Luke 12:15. I love this one. I love this. Let me look it up real quick for you. Luke 12:15. Because sometimes when you look in the Bible and you see how Jesus always had this money conversation all the time. It was always a money conversation, a money talk, always trying to get you to think about money, process about money, be conscious of money. Luke 12:15 says this. Then he said to them, watch out, be on guard against all kinds of greed. Life is not consistent in abundance of possessions. That's the concern that he had, that somehow money becomes this thing you got to have, and it becomes this controlling element in your life. And for a lot of people, it does. And I can understand how it does, because believe me, you need it for almost everything. But wealth amplifies both generosity and, it says, idolatry in the book, which is true. It does not create character, but reveals it. And we've always said that when you get money, it tells me a lot about you. I learned a lot about me. And it's funny, I learned a lot about me when I had money, when I didn't have money.
Mm-hmm.
I learned when my money is threatened, because in my life, it threatens me all the time because of the high expenses that I live in. And so you learn to walk by faith, not by sight. That's easier said than done.
Mm-hmm.
And the book, I think, makes some great points about that. Those are solid, healthy concepts. The heart struggle regarding money. The
We have
author,
one other comment from Garrett. He said to believe there's a minimal standard of stewardship that's not quite complete, but is there a minimal standard of stewardship?
for you, yes,
Okay.
but not. But everybody's definition of the minimal, Garrett, is the issue. And this is what religious people, in particular, people in general, you try to impose on somebody. For example, my definition of a lot of money may not be your definition of a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
What I think I need to have in my account as a minimum may not be yours, or you may have more or less. My risk tolerance may be different than yours. My ambitions may be different. Walt Disney, when he started Disney World, was about to lose everything if it didn't work. I mean, who would do that? How many people are willing to risk everything because of something they want to do, because of something they want to build? So I think that the problem is, what is your standard? What is your minimum? And why is that your minimum? And will that minimum limit you for the rest of your life? So I think there are a lot of things I could do differently. I could have fewer staff people. I could have less of these kinds of things, and I could just do well with less. But is that what I feel I should do? The answer is no. I might be a guy who likes to stay in nice hotels. So does that mean that I'm not American? No, it just means that's my minimum. I have certain standards I set for me academically, certain standards I set for me physically, what I'm going to eat, not eat. Um, Try to work out after this is over later on because I didn't get it in today. But trying to keep that rhythm, those are my minimums. And so I hope that answers the question
Yeah.
a little bit.
Well, they were that was one of the areas. I'm glad you elaborated on that more, because that was one of the areas that, to be perfectly honest, I don't know that I didn't feel a little bit, I guess I'm sharing a lot of convictions I had about the book, but felt a little bit materialistic after I read the book. I thought, well, I have more than, two pair of shoes and more than whatever. So there was that challenge there and that little tug. And even one of the things that you've even taught, and you say that, we sow and we save and we spend, and they even, I won't even say imply, but we're pretty clear that saving can be an idol, that because you become so dependent on, making sure you have enough money, that it lessens your dependence on God, with God being our source, and we should be dependent on God.
Well, and by the way, you're frozen in your
Oh,
pictures, but I can't see you, but that's okay. But your thoughts are heard. Let me say a couple of things. First of all, I believe you sow, you save, you spend. I get that. But I believe that a friend of mine said something the other night. He said, my savings is my sleep good at night account. That it lets me sleep good at night. Now I agree. Like I said, you can have one emergency and it can be. I had some huge expenses this year. It just came in like a flood, right? And I think everybody can have that, where your resources are pushed beyond what you expected and you have to kind of recover from them. But I also think that when I start judging for people what their minimum and maximum should be in savings, that somehow I have some magic number that I can say, oh, well, you got enough to pay your lights, your phone, your gas, and your house is paid off or whatever. So anything else is waste. You don't need to go on a trip and stay in a suite. You don't need to do this. You don't need to do that. I have all these things that I think, and what you start having is you become then the God over people. You begin to play God, and you start setting standards. I think what Jesus said, let the wheat and the tare grow together, I'll separate, is because you go in and you start separating, setting standards, forcing people to be like you, thinking like you. It's really easy to get into a spiritual high and start dictating to everybody where they need to stand. And that's what the Pharisees did. They developed these very strong traditions. So I think it's great to have your minimum for you and to have your boundary for you. But I don't think it's great to impose that on everybody. I really don't. I think that's unfair. And I think when you do that, I think you end up losing something because people get frustrated because you become the standard for them. And that's, again, another religious challenge. When we in church do this, we do this a lot. We tell people what to wear. We tell people when to come. We tell people how often to come. We tell people, we dictate, we become little dictators, and we create our little fiefdom and kingdom over people. And we're not really that interested in another opinion. We're not that interested in the fact that somebody doesn't want to participate in our giving program, or doesn't want to help us build a building, or doesn't want to do something. And if you look at the way people respond, it's pretty obvious they don't always agree with us. They just may not say it. And I love the fact that the book pushes us to consider, better stewardship, better use of our resources. I get that, but I think it can go too far. Because to me, if you suck, there's a guy whom I love. I'm not saying this in any way to besmudge his name, because I loved his reading. I read every book he wrote. Larry Burkett was the money guy for years in our life here in America, especially in the Christian community. And I used to say in my head, I just love what he says, and I appreciate his work because he's right. I remember a book years ago called War on Debt by Abazzini, I believe was his name. Boy, should have listened to that book. That book was right. Stay out of debt, man. Just don't do it. There were a lot of things about what he said that were really profound. The problem comes in, though, when you start struggling, right? And you start going through this up and down, up and down, up and down thing where you don't feel good about money. You don't feel good about advancement. It's hard to advance an organization into the millions of dollars if you don't trust yourself. It's hard. It's hard to ever be able to afford staff. It's hard to ever be able to pay benefits. It's hard to be able, we've had staff for dozens of years. I'm in here for 44 years, and we've almost always had some staff, always. Probably 42 of those years, if not 43. I think the reason for that is because of resources. And so if you're afraid of money, if you're afraid, you're afraid, you're always timid. I think a lot of what you can do with people when you overemphasize this, don't save and don't have too much extra, is you kill all the ambitious people who dream beyond what you have.
We have a question online, Pastor, from Mary. She said that you said there was a time when you didn't have money. So what was the first step you did to change that situation?
Kept working. And having money is a relative term, because if you need $50 and you got 25, you need money, right? So in my case, I may need another million or something. I may have, I got other needs that are bigger than the average person's needs. But the reality is, when I see that I don't have, and I believe there's always going to be seasons like that. I'm in one now. Where there's some things I need to do, and those things require more resources. And so I'm planning on working to achieve the resources I need or acquire them so that I can do those things. And then there's sometimes you have missteps. There are times you learn from your mistakes, and that's what makes you smarter and wiser. I've learned a lot from losing money. I've learned a lot from underestimating expenses. I've learned a lot, and I'll be better in the future from those experiences.
Well, a central theme in the book, it is talking about being very generous. So when you do have needs and you have things, you don't have all the money, could you really speak to how you are still able to be generous? Could you speak to generosity?
Well, the woman, the poor widow who gave all she had, Jesus said in an offering. You remember the story where the widow, everybody was giving and she gave, and Jesus said she gave more than everybody. Generosity is tied to your abilities. God's not holding you to be judged by somebody else's economic strength. It's your strength. What are you able to do? If you are a $50 giver, but the problem is, people tend, if they can't give whatever they think they should give, they give nothing. To me, generosity starts with you honoring God with what you have, and I believe He blesses that. He does.
And Latasha has a comment. She said it's about intention and alignment, knowing God is our source, and choosing care of money over consumption of money.
Yeah, I think so. I think care of money, saving money, having money is important. But and you'll see in our next book, which is going to be surprising to all of you, I believe in the consumption of money. I believe in the usage of it. I do a lot of funerals, and I deal with death every week. And one of the lessons I've learned is people die regretting that they never, ever, ever did the things they wanted to do. They save for retirement and give it to the doctor. They save for retirement and leave it to their kids. It's like, I work all my life to give it to my kids, and then when you're dead, your kids go party and they go do other things. The average person who receives inheritance lasts for 2 years. So it's not really, all that effort doesn't really pay off. I choose to find a way to balance those two out so that it doesn't do that. So let me turn into, if I can, the heart struggle, which is another major comment in the book. The authors emphasize subtle captivity, people who give tithe. I love this. People who give tithe and still cling emotionally to money. Again, you see that extreme thought, okay, So you tithe, but you still hold on to your money. There's that
Mhm.
issue. And I think there's two ways to look at that. Some people are holding on to it because it's smart to hold on to it. And
Mhm.
then again, notice how you get to leverage and choose what a person should do. So let's say they have $1,000. You think they should save, give away 900 and keep 100. Another person says, no, I'm gonna give away 200 and keep 8. Who's right? Who's more spiritual? Who's more sensitive to the community? I think you can give away 50 and keep $950 and be okay in God's mind. It's up to you. I think you get to decide what you want to be. And I'll tell you what I tend to think, Sheila. We underestimate our need. If you ask me today, how much should you save? As much as you can and a lot more and a little bit more. You should maximize your 401ks if you can. You should be maximizing your efforts to put money aside because the unexpected comes. I always hear people talk about, as I said earlier, the emergency fund issue. But even if you have an emergency fund, if one emergency comes, the fund is gone. If you have a big enough emergency. So I think that amassing wealth, which is something I firmly believe in, and building your net worth is a smart thing. And if you don't know what your net worth is, if you're listening, your net worth is your income, all your assets, right, minus your expenses. So if you have $1,000 in stuff, right, and then let's make it fun. You got $100,000 in stuff, your car, your house, or whatever. That's what you have in value. But you owe 50,000. Your net worth is 50,000.
Mhm.
And I think it's really important to build your net worth. And one of the ways to do that, we've had guests on here talk about that, is through having um, having assets, having real
Mhm.
estate, owning a home. Those are really important tools. But if you're at the stage where you can't own a home, I've got friends who live in Hawaii who can never own a home. They'll never own a home. 1,800 square feet, home is $1.5 million. They could never own a home. So to me, you adjust your dream to your economy and to the reality that you live in. But saving money is a great gift, and I think that I measure it, I value it even more.
But in Principle 5, it does say that we have a moral obligation to give to the poor. And in addition to all those other things, rather than saving more money, we have a moral obligation to still give.
But how much he doesn't, he doesn't get the right to set that.
Okay.
Now, it's one thing. See, this is the challenge of religious excitement and spiritual zeal. I feel you should. Okay, fine, good, but then you don't get to set it for me. Whosoever will, let him come, Jesus said. It's not about me imposing my will on somebody and saying, I think you should never get that kind of car because that's a waste and you can give that to the poor. Well, yeah, but they're not going to drive my car either. So, I mean, why is it that you, I don't know, why is it that I've got to feel guilty? See, this is the two-sided coin here. I've said there's something I call prosperity guilt. When I first mentioned to my wife, she said, what do you mean prosperity guilt? I said, you feel guilty for having. You feel guilty for riding first class. You feel guilty for having a nice jacket. You feel guilty for having advantage over people. But that's because sometimes of seed you've sown. That's why you have more than they do. That's not your fault. You went to school, studied. That's why you're a registered nurse on the other side of this world sometimes. Even though you work for us full time, we're glad to have you on staff forever and as our administrator. But I mean, one reason we hired you was because you were educated and because you were a good manager and all the good stuff. And I think the challenge is we as leaders and teachers, religious people, have a tendency to set standards for people and then use the Bible to justify our standards.
Okay.
You like that? I could tell you smiled on
Yes.
that. Yeah. Well, I like it. I think it's powerful. I love that in the there's what they call areas of limitation, tension. The book emphasizes personal generosity more than systemic economic questions. It's all about generosity and not about systemic economic issues. It's all about giving, 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 sowing, planting, giving your life away, all in the name of Jesus. And I understand it. I get it. I'm totally there. I mean, I'm a huge giver, but I've also learned that when I don't have anything, there are few places I can go. And that's why I believe this is a good opportunity. That's one of the reasons why I do this, is because I want people to engage. Now, if you have a question, I want you to make sure, we've talked a long time here tonight. If you have a question, I want you to get back in, because our time is going to wind down in a little while. So I want you, we're going to be going by 8:15. I want you to make sure that you get your questions in. So if you got a question about what we said about the book, feel free to type it in the chat. You can simply email us at pastor@overcomingbyfaith.org. That's pastor@overcomingbyfaith.org. If you'd like to zip out a question that way, because you may be on a device where you can't do it. And if you are there, then feel free. Let me, if I can, press on in this book and talk about treasures and trust. Jesus ties money to the heart more than any other subject. Where money goes, attention, loyalty, and imagination follow. I agree. Where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. But I'll tell you, you might be surprised by this. I think we were guilty of not focusing enough on money. I really, we did well.
What way?
Well, if I get starting over again, right? And you ask me, how would you, as a new pastor, deal with money in your church? I would say, understand that the temptation is to focus on a building, because you want to house everybody. But you'll often, if you're not careful, get a building that will cost you so much you'll spend years trying to pay it off, because commercial buildings are very expensive. And then there are these 5-year calls where every 5 years you got to go in and requalify for the loan. It's pretty many. Imagine if you did that in your house. And so I feel like that we should have emphasized investment and net worth development, not just get a building. We're growing, let's go get a building. Slow down. And if you're going to get a building, don't get the biggest building you can. Is there a way you can get something? Because what you really want to do is economically invest. In our case, if you said, what could you have done? We did some of it. We could have done more of it, which would buy more property where we bought property, but building a real estate side, which we own real estate, but it's just a smart investment.
But does that seem like that's consistent with the mission of sharing the gospel, that we are?
You got to fund the gospel. And if you're dealing with percentages like you are in church, where an average church is 1 out of 10 people is giving to 2 out of 10. That's it. Our church is 3 to 4 out of 10 that are giving. So you don't have the economic strength. I personally believe it's a trap. I think it's if you ask me, after all these years of pastoring, the trap is, you got all these people you're servicing, and you have very few people, yet don't have a large number of them that are giving. And so if you lived in a house, I always say it this way, it's very simple. If you have a house with 10 people and 2 of them work, 1 to 2 of them work, you're going to have pressure from the other 8 people. Where'd you cook for dinner today? Where are we going on vacation? Staying home, ring up the light bill. I realize that that's not a good system for a family, and it's definitely not a good system for a church or a nonprofit. One of the organizations that really got this, that I admired, is Goodwill. The founder of Goodwill understood that he had to find a way to fund the things they wanted to do in the community. So they went to this, donation of clothes, selling clothes. They created this incredible multi-million-dollar industry of recycling clothes to people who need them, who are poor and whatnot. So that they don't really have a donation-based model. See, God's system was a tithe-based model. That's how the Levites were funded. The Bible, tithing, Malachi 3:10, tithing was the main way. And I talked about this the other day. Remember, I read this. Matter of fact, you folks weren't there, but in our leadership meeting, I read. I talked about this whole idea of giving, and I talked about. I think it's Nehemiah 10:13, where he said that the priests had to go back and work in the field because they stopped giving. So we're not operating in God's system. If it's not 100% tithers, you're not operating in the system God created. You're operating in a hybrid system. And so Paul complained about it when he wrote about it to the Corinthians. He said, I should be honored and supported by you because I'm feeding you the gospel. And he said, the labor is worthy of his hire. All that's tied to this concern. And so when you're operating in a hybrid situation, you have hybrid problems. So you have to deal with that issue. And then when you talk about it, people say, "Oh, you're talking about money too much. Oh, you're talking about money too much." Well, you're a broke person, lovingly said, who doesn't have $1 million worth of responsibility. You're just trying to make your car payment, but you don't understand what it means to have to manage payroll, facilities, buildings, lights. All this costs money, and you just don't get it for free. And so I would say that one of the things you have to think about as a church is, how are we going to fund this? I know we want to do these things, but are we willing to ask people for money, or are we offended? Does it bother you? Are you like upset because somebody asked you for money? Well, keep your money. I mean, you're missing the point. You can't manage a society. That's why I'm a big fan of United Way. I support them. I support Family Promise, which we're going to have on here as one of our guests we're going to have down the road, and let Katrina and the team come talk to you about how people get in financial trouble and all that kind of stuff. But there is a big value, and in my opinion, when you're starting your church or your nonprofit, in thinking, how will I fund this outside of just asking for offerings? Because if the people have decided not to give, which is the case in a lot of ministries, that's why the pastors begging, that's why people are struggling, because the vast majority of those 300 people have said, we're not going to give. And so that's like people living in your house who just kind of live for free, and they never think, I watch you online, I'm enjoying you, why don't I support the ministry? Why don't I give? Why am I not involved? To me, that's important. So I hope that's a long answer.
We do have one person that chimed in late, and she said if we could share the name of the book again, that would be great. Pam would like us to put the book up.
Put that book up. There you go. Prosperity Team. Bam. God and Money, True Riches. Good book. Great thoughts. And that is a wonderful, wonderful read that will challenge you and inspire you at the same time. So I hope you are blessed by that. Now, as we come to the next phase, there is coming down the pike a new book that we're going to be sharing with you as our next read. And I want to spend the rest of the time on this one, and I'll let you kind of, Sheila, I almost want to get you to say the name of that book, because it's the name it's going to get people. They're gonna say, who came up with that book? And I'm gonna blame you. It's a new book on finances by Bill Perkins. And you want to say the name? Go for it.
The name of the book is Die Getting All You Can with from Your Money with Zeros. Basically, Die with Zero.
Die with Zero is the name of the book. Okay.
Yeah, it's a very disturbing title.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I'm sorry, I don't think I gave it to our team to put up for you, but Die with Zero is the next book.
And it's by Bill Perkins.
Bill Perkins. Now,
yes.
Let me say why I chose this book, and I'm going to read it not only for the first time in the Prosperity Team meeting, but also in the Books and Brunch, which will. When is that next Books and Brunch, Sheila?
Well, the next the first one for the year is going to be February the 7th, but that book we're going to be discussing the estrangement.
Okay, that's right.
Estrangement. Right. But then our April book is you're going to use Die with Zero. And right now it's scheduled for April. So we have February 7th with the Rules of Estrangement, and then we have the April book.
Now, let me say something. I'll come back to that. Let me come back to that book later and talk about that. Let me stick with Die Zero for a minute. Part of the book, there was a book called Die Broke that I first read years ago, and it's out of print now. But Die Broke was an incredible book that I don't know if it's still in print or not. Let me just see. I don't think it is, but it was called Die Broke. Hold on, let me see if I can find it really quick for you and see. That's the book that, Die Broke was by Stephen Poland, Pollan. There seems to be a few extra copies still online. You
Yes,
can buy them.
still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but there's no, I don't see a digital version of it. But Die Broke was the first book I read, and he is. I don't agree with his thesis overall, but I do like the way this book is going to take us down this direction in a way that's different, because part of what I think becomes, there are a number of things that become really interesting in people's minds. Um, they think my whole reason for living is to leave money to people. That my whole reason for working is to leave money for my kids so their lives can be better, my grandkids, and all that. Well, based on the person's average salary of 70, 80,000 a year, even if you save well and you leave them, good, I don't know how much money you think is a lot, 300,000, 400,000, whatever number you can potentially leave them. And most people are not leaving that large of an inheritance. So
Mhm.
I think what's interesting is you have, I don't know what the average size. Let's do some fun here for a second. The average size of an inheritance, which I think is revealing for a person. The average, hold on for a minute, size of an inheritance left by parents. Hold on for a second. By parents. Don't leave me. Stay with me. I'm a researcher. I like to know stuff. So when you look at that and you see the number, it's not going to take care of them for the rest of their life. That's not going to be it. $46,000 to $58,000.
That's the average amount they
The
leave.
average amount inherited in a U.S. household is about 46 to 58,000. That's not going to take care of them for life. The greatest thing you leave your kids, in my opinion, is character. Teach them how to work. Teach them how to take care of themselves. I believe in leaving a dollar or two to them. I believe in leaving 100,000 or 500,000 if you can. But the average length of the time that people keep it is a couple of years. They're not going to, and that's even if they win the lottery. They run through the money. Money is something you have to be comfortable with,
Mhm.
because if you're not, you feel it's wrong, and that prosperity guilt kicks in, and you give it all away. Because what I get to be out here, people, if I had $1 million, first thing I do is buy my mother a house. Second thing I do is buy me a Mercedes. I want one. That's it. It's all gone. That's it. The whole $1 million. You buy her house, $300,000,
Well,
$400,000.
that's going to be die broke.
That broke. Exactly. But I think the subtitle of the book, which is probably the most important part of the book, that I think he says, getting all you can from your money and your life. And in the book, he talks about the importance of saving. He talks about the important, how to spend your money without actually hitting zero. He's a whole chapter on that, how to spend money without actually hitting zero before you die. I like that. I like the idea that my kids, I don't believe, this is, I think, a mistake parents make too. I don't believe you should live for your children. I don't. I never told them that. I'm telling them now. If you watch it, I'm not living for you. I'm living for me. And you and I are just in this together, because you ain't living for me. My kids never say, I'm living for my parents. I'm living for dad. I'm living for mom. I want to hear them say it. Tell me, you live for me. Go for it. Living for you, dad. My whole life is for you. Everything I do is for you to be happy. That's not the case. That's not how they feel. If they go out to dinner with me, they don't expect to pay most of the time. They expect to eat. They expect they do, and I'm not against that. I'm just simply, I'm not. Well, it's the truth. I'm just simply saying the idea that your whole life is to somehow be all engaged in them, and I understand why, but you're doing all that for $58,000, everything that you got in your life, and I mean, if you want to see a lot of people who generationally are disappointing, look at these heirs property fights. Grandmama works all her life and you're fighting over stuff, you know? And I think that's because the aim is wrong. So I think the book forces you to do what it said, getting all you can from your money and your life. And then he encourages you, like I said, to be a good steward, to have money and all that. He's not discouraging that, but he's simply saying, don't make the main focus giving it all away. It's an interesting book. I think we're going to enjoy the read.
It's quite a contrast to God and money, the concept,
Yes.
just from the title. I haven't dived into it
I
yet.
agree. It does.
Yeah.
If you're watching and you have questions, feel free to dive in with those questions. And if
There needs to be some clarification on the book that you're going to use the next time. There's a question: are we going to use this book next month? And I'm not sure if they're referencing, are we going to use Die with Zero, or are you going to use God and Money again?
Die with Zero is going to be our conversation next month. So you need to be clear that we're moving from that book. Because to me, the book says one basic thing: give away all your money. And basically,
Be very generous.
Be very generous. So I think we've got that concept down. I think it's a great read, but we're moving on to the other book because I want to show you the other side of the argument. I want to take you to another way to look at your money and finances. I believe, and I would say this to myself. I had this thought, you'll love it. I'm calling it, I have a new title, Sheila. It's called a black box, my black box money. Okay. I believe that I think sometimes in life, and I'm one of the people where you look back, you could save a whole lot more money. You could have, right? You built assets and you got maybe more than most people, but I think that you should strive to build a black box is what they have on these planes, right? When the plane goes down, they get the black box. So I call it black box money, where my goal is to have, I don't know what that number is for you. It may be 10,000, maybe 50,000, whatever it is, that I have some place I can go and I can get $10,000. And that's my
Is that different? Is the black box different than a savings box?
No, same thing. Same thing.
Okay.
But a more determined amount.
I got you.
I want to make sure. And I think for me, I can give you a number. For me, years ago, I said, if I have $10,000, I just felt that was the number for me. $10,000, man, just put my hands on $10,000 right now. I'm okay. Because that gave me this sense of security. As a matter of fact, I don't know that I had enough faith to think that I could ever have, 800,000. And that's to me the point of growth, where you come to a place where you start identifying in yourself where your lines are. In my mind, my line was too low. In my mind, I did not understand that. Okay, $50,000 is not a bad number. You know what I'm saying? It's not because like I said, prosperity guilt makes you give away and give away and give away and give away because you tend to fear the black box and the amassing of wealth. And that's what this book kind of makes you hesitate with. Go ahead.
Well, what are some of the things that expanded your vision to go from 10,000 to thinking, well, maybe it needs to be 25,000? And then, because that is one of the points they make in God and Money, is you set one number and when you get there, you just increase it. If you remember him telling that story about the guy they kept checking in with because the guy thought he was going to reach a certain level. And when he got there, he moved it to another one. And then you end up just worshiping savings.
See, I don't know that I call it worshiping savings. I just loving to save. It's okay. I think applying that term to savings because a person likes to do it, kind of it diminishes the wisdom in that and the joy in it. I believe that a person who has money and they set a level, and I think that's what you asked me, right? They set a level, and you said they get frustrated. What was your question again?
Well, you set a level, let's say 25,000. When you get to 25,000, then you want to increase it to, you just keep increasing it and never really get to a level of like, okay, I'm comfortable here. This is okay. And then you just give everything else away.
Well, I think what you asked me, what made me move my number?
Yes.
Need, success, payroll, having responsibility, facilities, maintenance, $1,000 to cut the grass, thousands of dollars worth of lights, thousands of dollars worth of, all this air conditioning units, and on and on and on. The greater your need, the greater black box you need. And so I've come to a place where I understand that it's not wrong to have a big black box. It's not wrong to have help me sleep at night money. It's not wrong to have that. As a matter of fact, it's wiser because once you're not free from financial pressure, you think differently. That mental space is not tied up, and that's why I think, in my opinion, and I say this without indicting anybody, I'm just being honest, pastors are deceived when it comes to this topic because they come from an ask culture, and the people have said no. If 2 out of 10 people in your household are the only ones who work, and 8 are being supported by the 2, that's a dead end street. If one of them gets sick, that's a dead end street. That's how you end up homeless, losing everything, because you have a system that doesn't work. And that's what I think is fundamentally wrong. Sometimes in families, your system is not working. And I've had to adjust my system. I'm in the middle of doing one now. You have to adjust your system and say, okay, what you've done may have been sincere, but you come to a place. Abraham did that at 75, Moses at 80. You readjust the system, you see, and you say, this doesn't work. I've got to manage this. And my margins have to be higher. I have to have a bigger black box. Because something came along, it was 20,000. And all of a sudden, I'm like, my God, I had a roof repair last year. Amazing. Just out of nowhere. It's like, oh, you just got to get it. The guys, Reverend, we just can't keep fixing it. At some point, and I'm thinking, what, fixing it? It's not bad. That bad. No, it's time to replace the whole thing. And I thought, okay. And that's just something you have to have the courage to see. This is why churches are not very well maintained. They're not. The painting is not kept up. It looks worn. And one of the challenges that we face, we built something that's not impressive at all. It's a gym, basically, with a multi-purpose use and classrooms attached. But it's what we could afford. We spend 8% of our income on mortgage debt. It's what we could afford. It's a house big enough for us to live in. Everybody's warm and dry. But when you sometimes build these, I've got friends who have $200,000 mortgages, $300,000 mortgages a month. You say, well, depends. What's their income? I don't care what your income is. $300,000 is a lot of money every 30 days, and you're paying payroll, and you got to do maintenance, and the margins are still 5 to 10%. So for them, it's not as easy, and that's why their approach to money is so aggressive, because they don't have that margin. And so what made me change my mind back to your original question? Need. Crisis. Yeah, changed me a lot. So the book kind of, I think, helps you focus on how to build your life and how to get it together. Now, anybody have a question, feel free to reach out, let us know, type your questions in. We'd love to hear your thoughts or questions about what we're talking about tonight. We appreciate you being with us tonight. We are so grateful. I will tell you what's coming down the pike so you can look forward to it next month. We have an investment specialist who's coming in. He is amazing, named Mr. Wright, and he has this huge company in another city I'll tell you about when he comes. He's incredible. He believes in talking about investments. You'll be able to ask this guy any questions. He understands money, insurance. He's just a really smart guy, and he's really certified. This is not a guy who's like one of those guys who just kind of trying to get your money. This is a guy who really has knowledge about finances and money, and he'll be here. Then we're going to have, after that, someone that's going to come and talk about how you get in trouble financially, and how they've helped people who are in trouble get out of trouble. Because sometimes you get in trouble financially and you don't know what to do, and that's coming. Then we've got a lawyer coming that's going to talk about how a person can get a will, because Sheila Bishop, it's amazing how many people do not have a will. I mean, I am stunned. I am speechless at the number of people. I hope nobody watching. The people watching us tonight, Sheila, are not like that. Every one of them, by faith, has a will. I mean, how many people do not have a will? I was stunned. I want to do not have a will. Okay, no good. Do not have a will. It's amazing. The number is phenomenal. I was shocked to know that 68% of the people, I mean 76% of Americans, uh, do not have a will. 76%. And it is amazing how tragic that is when you get to that end of life and you don't have that settled. So that's important. So we'll be talking about that. Now, if you have a question you want us to deal with that I did not mention, feel free to type it in the chat. Love to let you give me those thoughts, and we'll look forward to that. I'm going to pray for you and let you go. So, any questions at all? Feel free.
None right now.
All right. Well, it's time to go. You guys are great. It's been wonderful. I've enjoyed our fellowship and our time together. I pray that God would bless and prosper you in your life. I pray that you would join us in these reads and that they would be a blessing to you. And if it's been a blessing to you, link and send it to somebody else. And it's been a wonderful, quiet night with you just meditating with us and thinking. But thank you for being with us tonight. So let me pray for you. Father, give them grace. I pray and prosper them as they go. I believe in the power of prosperity and the power of being resourced so you can do good in the world. I ask you to lift our hearts and minds to new places and new thoughts. I honor you and I thank you for this wonderful time together. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you. Go prosper and be blessed. We'll see you folks. Remember, here's the schedule. On this coming Sunday, we're in church, okay? 9 and 11 o'clock, it's third Sunday. That's first, second, and third Sunday. We're in the building. Fourth Sunday is our Sabbath Sunday. We're always streaming live. The entire service, worship and everything is from home. Come in the building for that fourth Sunday. Next week, we start something new. You ready, Miss Bishop? Da-da-da-da. Bible class with Pastor Rick.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to be teaching you from the book of 1 Samuel. So if you want to join us, you can join us live. We'll be there on all of our digital options. And we're going to start in the book of 1 Samuel chapter 1. And we're going to have 2 powerful days. I'm doing something I've never done. We're going to have Wednesday and Thursday. It's like a revival in the Bible. That's what it is. And so you bring your Bible. That's all you need. And then we're reading Andy Stanley's book. And I hope you get this book. This book, Better Decisions, Fewer Regrets. It's a great, great book. I will be covering that book, and I'm doing something different. I'm going to link the two. I'm going to show you how in the book of Samuel, the kind of decisions they made and the impact it had on their lives. God is this God who has a tendency to say, let me tell you about my people. Let me tell you what they did right, what they did wrong. And it's just a powerful read. So that starts next week. Bible class, Pastor Rick. It starts promptly at 7. If you're coming in person, please go online and register for that. Let us know you're coming. We're going to have a few snacks for you. So don't come hungry, though. Don't come just for the food. But 6:30, we're going to open up the doors, and you'll be able to come in, and you can have a snack before our 7 o'clock session. It will last an hour and 15 minutes. It's going to be really great from 7 to 8:15. And people who come in person, I'm telling them to bring your paper, your notepads or whatever, and we're going to be in the Word together. It's going to be really great getting down in 1 Samuel. My goal is to take you through the Bible. We're going to have another set of classes later on in the year. We're going to talk about the origin of Scripture, where the Bible came from. We're going to talk about some powerful doctrinal principles, the basics of our faith. So I'm trying to take you into the text, but we're going to start in 1 Samuel, some powerful stuff. So that's all I want to say. Thank you for your time. You've been gracious to us. We'll see you on next week, preferably on Sunday if you come to church. I'd love to have you there in person or online. Have a great day. Ms. Bishop, you have any final words before we leave?
No, it's been great. Great discussion.
Yeah. I love it. You be blessed. We'll talk to you later. Take care. Bye-bye. Be blessed.